Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How is life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope everything is good and great and wonderful, and I hope that you are at peace with everything happening in the world right now. I'm okay. A little disappointed in myself because I haven't gotten much writing today. I woke up this morning to work. I was hoping to start writing before working, just like I said I wanted to do yesterday, and I didn't. And I was very, very tired. And then I started working, and then my internet went out. For most of the day, my internet was out. Luckily, they had a guy come at like 2. But anyway, the point is, I kind of just meandered, and part of it was that I wrote myself into a scene that I wasn't particularly motivated to finish. It's a scene that I feel is important for world building. It's important for it's important. It's intended to show a bit of compassion from the main character. It's intended to show a little bit more of what this world is like. And so, but it's a complex scene. It was basically a town meeting, that got called because of his presence, because of what he did in this town. And so I needed to write a town meeting, and I was not excited about it. I have heard of the idea, or I recognize the idea of, I could have just gone and written in some brackets, insert town meeting here, and then continued on with the story and came back to that scene at some later date. But ultimately, I don't want to do that with this book. With this particular book, I want to write it start to finish. Part of the reason is because that's going to force me to write through uncomfortable situations, and that's how I'm going to develop a good writing habit, in my opinion. I don't know if it's true, because obviously this is only day 4. But for me, I know that powering through the tough spots is how I get things done. When I was working on M's desk, I could have stopped working on the screw-ups on the cabinets and worked on the drawers instead. I could have stopped working on the screw-ups on the top. I just don't work well that way. I want to finish what I start, and then I can move on to the next thing. And with this book, I'm going to write it front to back. Just put words down. And so I wrote a scene that's very short. I've written, as of right now, 5,675 words. I hope to write a little bit more before I go to bed tonight. That means I only wrote about 600 words today, which is 1,500 words short, or not 1,500, 1,100 words short of today's goal. And that's not good. But what it taught me was the scene that I wrote is, I think, enough. It gives enough information about the society of this world. It gives enough information about some of the little side characters that are going to take place over the next few chapters while the main character spends some time in this area. It gave a little bit of a feeling of how the main character is perceived in this world, and it was important. And I didn't want to just sit and write a bunch of dialogue where people talked back and forth throughout this meeting. So it is very much a summary. I very much just said, started off with some dialogue, here's the meeting, blah, blah, blah. And then I walked through like the points that they talked about during the meeting, the things they hit on. And I tried to just hit on the main points that affected the main character, right? He's the narrator in this particular instance, so I wanted it to just be like, yeah, and some shit happened, Like if you were telling a story about going to a town meeting, you wouldn't sit and write and tell the person that's sitting in front of you all the little details. You would say, this guy yelled at me for this guy yelled at me for this is what I offered, let's move on. And that's kind of how I decided to write the scene. In the previous scene, the main character sits down, he goes to help another character, and it's a lot of dialogue. It's just back and forth between the two as they learn a little bit about each other, because that character's probably going to be a secondary character in this book at some point. Maybe he won't. I haven't decided that fully. Right now it's on my brain that he will be, but who knows? I'm writing this as I go. The other good news about plowing through that, about deciding that I'm just going to write this scene, is that some new little micro plots came out of that. I was like, oh yeah, he could do this and he could do that. And that gave me a new window to look through into my character and go, oh, maybe he can do this. And I wouldn't have come to that had I not decided to sit down and write this scene. And if I had written the rest of the book and then came back to it, it would have been really odd to try to filter that in and later. So I think I made the right choice. I think that even though I'm probably not going to hit my goal, I don't think I could write another 1,000 words tonight. Probably will be short for today, but I at least sat down for 45 minutes. I wrote. That's 15 minutes shy of my hour a day goal, but I'm going to go spend a little bit more time on it. I'm going to spend some time with M first, and then I'll spend some time writing, and hopefully I can get closer to the 1,000 words. We'll see. Don't know, but it's been a really fun experiment. I'm really enjoying it. Unfortunately, when I did the art stuff at the beginning of last year, it was really cool because at the end of every day, here's my art that I did, and I could post pictures, and you could go look at my Instagram or my Twitter and see the art that I did for that day. I can't really do that with this. I mean, I guess I could. I guess I could release these writings chapter by chapter and say, here's the chapter if you want to read it. And maybe I should. Maybe I could do a private share of chapter by chapter. Here's what I'm working on. But I feel like that, I don't feel like that's good. And it definitely wouldn't be an everyday thing. I'm not going to be writing a chapter a day. I'm going to be writing however many words I get done in a day. The first chapter of this book is over 3,000 words, and the second chapter is just under 3,000 words. So there's no way I could write a chapter a day and publish it somewhere. But if you are a reader and you are interested in reading my book and you want to read it chapter by chapter, maybe let me know. And I could always figure out a way to split it up into chapters that I could publish as I write them, and you could read them and give me feedback, or just enjoy the story as it's written before I go back and edit it. So far, I've taken... I said I wasn't going to do any editing of previous stuff, but I've done a few things. Like there's another character that is introduced early on. At least the idea of that character is introduced early on, and I recently switched the gender of that character just because I think it's going to be more interesting if it's a different gender. I went back and changed a few minor details about... I went back and renamed a few things. And so I had to... For renaming, it's pretty simple to just use a find and replace and fix all the instances of that thing. But for the most part, I'm not going to go back and do line edits until the whole book is written. So if you want to read it chapter by chapter, I'll do that. Let me know in the comments. We'll figure out a way to share it, and you can read what I've written so far and give me feedback, or just keep your mouth shut and wait until I start the edit before you give me details. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you very much. And I will see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is deification, the process of making someone or something into and worshiping them as a god. Oh, it's a noun, by the way. Poetry is the deification of reality. Edith Stittswell, a British poet. Surprise. Deification, D-E-I-F-I-C-A-T-I-O-N. Why do I emphasize the I's so much? I do that like with every word.